Well, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Mowing After Dark here on the College Football Mafia Network. I want to thank everybody for joining us on this Sunday for our cool down session, our aftermath session. I want to start off the show tonight by telling you uh, we lost a truly great person today in Nick Mangold. Rocket Rant's obviously a Jets fan, probably the greatest center to ever play for the Jets, probably the greatest center to ever play for Ohio State. But more important than that, he was just a great human being,
He was.
very genuine, never treated anybody like they were less than or more than. Uh, and that was before and after he went pro. And I just got to experience a little bit of Nick Mangold off the field. I didn't know him really well, but um, thoughts and prayers go to his wife and his four kids, as
Absolutely.
well as his parents and his three sisters.
Yeah, man, he was an amazing player from day one. He was a rock on the Jets. He was a rock on the Ohio State, and even after he retired, one of the if you go back and look at a great post, I think he, when time was coming to an end with the Jets, I think he found out he got cut while he was on a ride, or at least he did an image on Twitter about finding out he got cut on Splash Mountain at Disney World. So either that's what happened, or it was a great reaction shot. But even after that, he was very active with the Jets after and fans. He would go on random YouTube creators like this. He'd go on the Jets shows, right? And he didn't have to do that kind of stuff, even because he still lived very close to the Jets training center and did a lot of media work for the Jets throughout his post retirement time.
Yeah, and for those who didn't know, after his retirement, he decided to coach youth football, and he did that for free. Nobody, he just wanted to be out there doing to enjoy football on some level. And I'm sure that Nick is up there looking down on us right now. And the first thing he did when he got up there was turn that halo around backwards. Um, because yeah, Nick he would never wear that straight forward. It was always
Never. I don't think I've ever seen him that way.
yep, always turned around to the back. So we want to say prayers up to Nick Mangold and their family tonight. We got you guys. We're thinking about you. Tough loss, very young. Sad to see it. But we're going to talk some college football tonight. Uh, some of the big stories that came out of this weekend. What accent Brian Kelly's going to practice next. It should be fun.
Saudi. He's going to become the first coach of a Saudi-based university.
Mr. Ed Wayner and I were talking, and I see Ryan Willie left a super chat here. We're going to talk about the Wisconsin opening or potential opening. He said that maybe Brian Kelly could take that. And I said, could you imagine Brian Kelly with a Uper accent sounding like Fargo? Oh, yeah, don't you know?
It's like a good question is forget about which accent would he embrace. I guess my question would be which fan base would be awesome. We got Brian Kelly and we get to deal with him. Like the coaching X's and O's aside, just the entity, the persona that is Brian Kelly.
Absolutely. Ryan Willie was the first in the chat. He says, hi, Moen. Good to see you, Ryan. Followed by the big Lubbock, who was first by being second. Oh, hey, Moen, Buckshot Kid. And then we've got our first super chat of the evening. And I will say the full curse word for you. Tim Brando's a fucking joke. I don't disagree with you. Saying that former players don't know what they're talking about when it comes out that high school coaches in Wisconsin didn't have a relationship with Fickle's coaches. I'd believe Brad Nortman before Fickle. Nortman works for ESPN. And then he follows this up with can't stand Tim Brando. 100% agree with you, sir. Cannot stand Tim Brando. I think he's terrible reporter, and I think he's a terrible analyst.
Yeah, I mean I don't have as much against Tim Brando, but I don't disagree that I don't believe that he is wired into what the local recruiting scene is for Wisconsin in the way that somebody who actually follows Wisconsin or players that are closer to coaches, including, I don't know, perhaps their own high school coaches from when they were players, might have a handle on that. And as someone at a school that previously had coaches that had no relationships with some of the key local high schools, and also someone living in LA, where Lincoln Riley had that same problem with the school like Mater Dei for quite some time and was criticized. I tend to believe those reports.
And Ryan Willie says, and he did Foghorn Leghorn impressions during the game. Yeah, here's my problem with that. Okay, Leghorns are actually Italian. So if you're going to do an impression of a Leghorn chicken, it has to be in an Italian accent. And Foghorn Leghorn actually isn't a Leghorn based off of his color. He's some other kind of rooster. So that's just the chicken facts I wanted to share with you, Ryan. But
I mean, I've heard what Foghorn Leghorn is, but you just went way deeper than I ever experienced. So it took till 4:08 West Coast time, but there's the thing I learned for today.
you did. And Foghorn Leghorn is not a Leghorn. Daniel Gygax says, hi, everyone. By the way, thank you for the super chat, Ryan. I'm going to go ahead and play a few things here.
I got my Magnum condoms. I got my Wad 100s. I'm ready to plow.
That sounds like what Tim Brando would say. And then let's get him with a little. I don't know if he likes wrestling or not, but that's a big dollar. We'll go ahead. And we'll give him a cold beer.
Yeah, well, it's already 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to drink coffee at 10 o'clock in the morning where I come from. I'll take a cold beer instead.
Perhaps something to eat?
Come to think of it, my stomach is rumbling a little bit. I'll have another cold beer.
Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. Much appreciated, sir. I'm trying to find one more on here to describe Tim Brando. And here we go. Here it is.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
Yeah, Tim Brando, you hear that? And you got a bad haircut, too. Bob Swanger's in the house. He says, hi, everyone. Thank you, Bob.
Hello, Bob. Hope you enjoyed your off week.
Ryan Willie says, go, Pack, go. Cool heist pitcher, but those coaches are pretty darn good. But their teams are going through rough patches. Brickbat, the Florida State one is way more than a rough patch.
It's a trend.
It's a trend. I mean, he has not won an ACC game in over 2 years now.
It was even more than that, Rowan. The 13-0, which was commendable and very difficult for anyone to ever do, that's the aberration season in the last 6, if you look at them. If you go back and look, and yes, there's a COVID year in there, but the trend for Mike Norvell over his entire time is not so hot, let alone that ACC streak.
Ryan Willie, I used to like Brando, not anymore. Yeah, I seriously hope part of this Paramount deal we get some better announcers on the Home Depot Big Ten broadcasts. Gary, yeah, those guys just don't do it for me. Don't do it for me. Scavin, yes, says hello, gentlemen. Good to see you, Scavin.
Hello, Scavin.
Caleb Ramirez is here. He says hi, all. My long national bio might be over. BK is probably gone. Yeah, by the way, if anybody, that could happen while we're on the air here tonight. So,
hey, Moen, here's the latest retweet I just saw from actual national reporter Matt Zenitz, who's from CBS 4 minutes ago, said, the process is ongoing and no final determination has been made as of yet, but it's currently trending toward LSU and head coach Brian Kelly parting ways. Sources tell me Chris Hummer and Jay Talty for CBS Sports. I would love to know if Go Black or anyone is living on the message boards. I'm wondering if, because the rumors this morning, right, where changes are coming at LSU, people were suspecting that maybe there's something going on with the coordinator situation. I wonder if they went to Brian Kelly with that, and he's like, I'm not changing my staff for anyone kind of thing. And now they're just figuring out an exit. But that's the last one I have. I have a list of all the National Football reporters, and that's the last tweet from 4 minutes ago.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see, but we've heard that process is going through for Norvell as well. So that's why we
Except
have
for
the 50.
LSU has money.
Yes. And that's why we have the $50 million fire extinguisher on display there in the Louvre. Mr. Ed Wayner says, proud of my Houston Cougars. So am I. I picked you guys to win. Breakthrough road win at ASU. Interesting how 3 of the top teams in the Big 12 football standings so far this year were G5 promoted teams that were looked down upon by the ungrateful 8. Absolutely right.
Solid work. And congratulations to the Big 12 for giving the best example of how the transitive property of college football does not work. Texas Tech beats Houston at Houston. Texas Tech loses to Arizona State at Arizona State. Houston comes in and beats Arizona State at Arizona State.
I think some of these schools will basically trade coaches for how many openings. Probably not wrong.
It's also getting to the point, and I don't know what you think, Moen, and we can get into it, of last year we didn't get a lot of firings, right? Because there was all these things pending with the House settlement and the future state of revenue sharing and all these monetary things. Now we already have a lot, but I guess the question is, if LSU opens, LSU will be the number 1 job on the market. It will be higher than Florida. It'll be higher than Penn State for the average coach. Certain coaches, certain jobs, certain places for them have a different value, but empirically LSU is going to be the highest ranked job. So that puts everybody down in the pecking order. And if you had the same aspirations at LSU, and if any of the Sarkisian rumors, which he denied and his agent denies, come true when he goes to the NFL, you can add Texas into that mix. So will there be some coaches that get the Billy Napier because their school is too worried that they're going to go way further downstream than they want, and they don't want to take a chance on a G5 coach or a DC or an OC because they had their sights set higher?
Yeah, and just as a little piece of trivia here, the backup thumbnail is going to be Jimmy Sexton dressed as Rodney Dangerfield's character from Caddyshack going, hey, everybody, we're all going to get paid. Because it is Jimmy Sexton season again. Rumors about Steve Sarkisian. All these rumors that Lane Kiffin's going to address the Florida job with his players. All these beautiful, beautiful things that come out all around the same time every year, and they always seem to surround Jimmy Sexton clients.
Well, when he's the brand name for Coke for agents in college football head coaches, you're going to get that, right? The only person that is undefeated is Jimmy Sexton.
It's true. But let's talk about that Texas A&M game versus LSU. I knew the fate was sealed for LSU, and earlier on the Alabama South Carolina broadcast, I want to say, they said who's won the most night games in the SEC over the last X number of years, and it ended up being LSU. LSU with like 20 wins. Yeah. And I said, as soon as I saw that, I said, well, they just jinxed LSU. LSU has lost. Now, it was a competitive game.
For half.
For a half. But so was Stanford, Miami. So for a half, it was a competitive game. But then Texas A&M just absolutely blew the doors off of LSU. LSU looked ineffective offensively, defensively, and on special teams.
Yeah, I didn't take it as the jinx because there were sort of 2 things that were out there. One was that stat that you talked about that they alluded to on the broadcast about LSU and winning at night with Brian Kelly at LSU, especially because of Death Valley. But there was another concurrent one of his record against top 10 teams at LSU was like almost diametrically opposed. And it was a question of which one on the scales of injustice of the Brian Kelly zone. I love LSU as a program. I cannot stand Brian Kelly. especially this year because I actually picked LSU to make it to the the SEC championship game. So even more so because I finally gave in and supported him despite despite despising him. But one of those was going to win, and clearly the night game and Death Valley version did not win.
Yeah, and I hate Brian Kelly for a whole other reason, because Brian Kelly leave puts Marcus Freeman as the head coach at Notre Dame. And I think that's probably going to be the head coach that wins them a national championship.
Yeah, I also think he helped kill a kid and took no responsibility for it.
Yeah, well, that's Brian Kelly. And no matter where he shows up next to coach, I'm sure he's getting that accent down, whether it's the surfer dude for UCLA or the Uper accent for Wisconsin, or
I will eat Skyline chili if he takes that job.
Which
because
job?
I don't UCLA.
Okay.
I think even if they had all the money in the world, I think that they know that personality would not go well over here.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a big game for Mike Elko. Mike Elko has clearly taken the steps to turn A&M around. Jimbo Fisher got paid a lot of money to do it and couldn't seem to get it done. Elko delivers, and Texas A&M moves up to number 3 in the polls.
Good for them.
Speaking of Southeastern Conference, Ole Miss picked up a massive win. Beat Oklahoma. Again, this was a close game at points. There was even a point where it looked like Lane was going to do the old Lane Kiffin routine where I believe it was 26-25 after they were up by like 11. And looked like that was going to all go down. But they came back, and then not only that, Lane Kiffin even managed to shit talk.
He did, and against David Stone.
Yes.
A former 5-star top recruit who had played a little bit of games during recruiting. So I enjoyed that, to be honest. But Lane did almost over-strategize himself into a loss there with some of his decisions to not kick the field goal earlier. Granted, the whole game changes from there, but it looked a little bit dicey there for a second. But he obviously was able to flip the script from the past narrative, and they come away with a huge win.
Yeah. I got a $5 super chat here for Earl Carr. Hey, Mo, and how about my Cougars? 8-0. Congratulations to your Cougars. That was a rough game for Iowa State.
Yeah. They had it for a while.
They had it. It looked like they were going to win, and the pushing the kid into the ball, but he wasn't really pushing the kid into the ball. I don't know. That's another one of those things where it's going to be down to whatever you want to call it, interpretation. It's just like, what is a catch and what is targeting? What is pushing a player into the ball? What is not? But at the end of the day, if you're Iowa State, you can't throw interceptions. You can't have turnovers like that. And BYU, they got down and they came back. They came roaring back. And congratulations to the BYU Cougars, 8-0 atop the Big 12.
Some tough games ahead for the Cougars, but they keep showing their mettle no matter what happens. So.
Speaking of a team that lost it, thank you for the super chat, Earl Carr. Let me give you a little Cougar noise here. Cougar. There you go. There's that Cougar noise. Speaking of teams that almost lost it, Alabama, South Carolina did. South Carolina was clearly in the driver's seat. Had time on the clock. Looking to go down and score some points to go ahead and pull away from Alabama. Untimely fumble.
Man.
Alabama is immediately in the red zone and almost immediately scores a touchdown.
I mean, got to give Greg Sankey credit. That NIL deal for Vaseline on the visiting teams, the home team's football has definitely paid off for Alabama. And it's okay if you play an unranked team who's had a disappointing season and you're down for the first 3 quarters and a half of this fourth quarter, and you're down by almost 2 touchdowns, because as long as you come back, it's a gritty win.
Yeah, they played very poorly throughout most of that game, and to South Carolina's credit, they had their run game down. They were doing well, and you got to hold on to that football. But even at the end there, when the guy was running in to score the touchdown, the one guy pulled his hands back just to let him score so that they could have some time on the clock. But
Moen, if I don't know, a good solid ACC, Big 12, maybe even a Big 10 team on the road, highly ranked number 5, playing against a team that's under 500, escaped with a victory like that, do they stay ranked, or do they drop a spot or I mean, they stay ranked, but do they drop a spot or two, even as a, hey, that was, you should have been able to do better in that one, or what? Because I'm curious.
well, I think we would have to ask Oregon, because for some reason Wisconsin and Oregon, that seems to be Oregon's kryptonite. Oregon only won by 14 points. They were favored by 32.5 points in that game.
Yet they didn't fall a spot. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, they didn't fall a
Miami,
spot.
let's see, fell a spot after actually covering the spread despite a slow start. But Oregon didn't. And I don't really care. I just, because at the end of it, there's the college football playoff committee, things are different. What I care about is not so much like whether Miami should or shouldn't fall, but whether the rules, the interpretations are applied pretty evenly. That would be my only question. And BYU is underranked as well for being undefeated.
As is Navy. I think as is Navy.
As is Navy. At this point, when you get 6 undefeated teams in leagues that you could theoretically go to the playoff, I think you probably deserve, when you're like at 7 or 8 games in, to be at least 24 or 25. The next one receiving votes at the worst case.
But again, this is games that people actually watch, and all they watch are highlights. And they look at the scores at halftime, and they see Stanford, Miami 7-7, and that's what they base it off of. They don't base it off the final. They look at the final score and they go, okay, it was 35-7 right at the end. 42-7 at the end. But they reflect more on that halftime score of 7-7.
Yeah, because I remember all these games that are always decided by the final score at halftime of anything. But like, that's fine. Then why didn't it apply to Oregon? Why didn't it apply to Alabama in those same scenarios, right? Where they're double-digit plus favorites against teams under 500, the top 25. That's my only issue. It's not a woe is me Miami. That will work itself out. I just want people to look at the halftime scores the same way. I want you to not be, hey, for this team, I'm going to justify their ranking Heather Dinich by their strength of record, but when that doesn't work well for this other team, I'm going to flip the script and say, well, look at their strength of schedule. Intellectual inconsistency is what drives me crazy. And if you're going to say you're going to watch the highlights, then literally watch the highlights of those games. Fine. You're not going to, you'll see like, oh, it started slow. If you were watching if you're watching the Missouri game, then you'll find out, oh, the quarterback, their starting quarterback got taken out. So it's a different game to evaluate, as an example.
Sure, but let me ask you a question. Do you think the loss from last week is still weighing somewhat on Miami? Almost
I think it did for a minute. That's probably why the slow start, right? But the second half was also a torrential rain in Miami.
Right. Well, that's true. It was a monsoon, but
it was in both places, and one didn't, turn into that way. I mean, I give credit to Wisconsin for whatever they have over Oregon. I just mean, again, it's not a woe is me Miami thing. It's I just want people to apply the same rules and how you interpret a halftime score or a cover in the spread or teams on strength of record or strength of schedule, the same for whoever the team is, whatever their conference badge is. That's my only point.
Earl Carr with a $10 super chat. Hey, Moen, first time in school history, the Cougars started 8-0 in back-to-back seasons. Even teams under Lavelle didn't do that. He is a stats guy. Let's give him a stats sounder.
Got an encyclopedic knowledge of the game and a nearly photographic memory. If anybody can do this, anybody at all,
I figured it out.
Thank you, God, because I had nothing.
Yes, congratulations to the BYU Cougars, but you guys got a tough schedule coming up. So, good luck. Good luck is all I can say for you. Because I think you're going to have a real tough one there, brother. Go Black 45, from what I heard, the request is to make a lot of changes, like 5 Sia. He has to go. All that case, just fire the guy and rebuild next year. Bring in Lanning or Eli to save us. Lanning, the grass is damn green in Eugene. Eli Drinkwitz, man. He's getting a lot of, we haven't even talked about the Missouri Vanderbilt game.
Because he's like the Coke Zero to Lane Kiffin and Dan Lanning.
He's a good coach. He just doesn't have the resources.
Correct. I think I think it makes sense that he's being talked about.
Okay, and Go Black 45 clarifies 5 coaching changes. Yeah, that's. Listen, when you're replacing that many coaches, you're better off just scrapping it and replacing everybody.
You had Oklahoma State last year. He replaced everybody, right? Like 10.
Yeah, didn't work. Well, I heard Heather Dinich say today that Vandy's resume is better than BYU, and it will show come playoff rankings. Of course, it'll show come playoff rankings because the SEC has set up the playoff rankings to benefit the SEC.
She does. Yes, I agree with that. But Vandy does have stronger games against teams that I think most of us would put money on in a lot of games. If BYU were to continue what they're doing as the weeks progress in the college football playoff, I think they'll make that gap up in some ways. And some of these SEC teams are going to take another L, right? And that's when it will get even more either infuriating or clarifying or both.
Ryan Willie, it was a monsoon. I like that word, monsoon.
It was bad.
Reminds me, gorilla monsoon. But yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, Daniel. I posted a short that Daniel did before the show tonight, talking about the TNT Big 12 thing. There's a lot of people out there on the Big 12 side saying we're being disrespected, we're being disrespected, we're being disrespected. And I'm not saying they're not being disrespected. But what I will say is I think there is more disrespect aimed at the ACC than what the Big 12 is getting right now. Because how often have you heard about what Georgia Tech is doing?
The fact that Haynes King isn't on Heisman list, even though he has more yards passing, is a prime example from a Georgia Tech perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ACC is getting even more disrespect, and I think it's because it's a down year for Florida State, obviously. It's a down year for Clemson. Miami stumbled, but I don't think that holds as much weight as the other two having really bad seasons.
Yeah, I mean, if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't know that there are 4 teams in the top 16 from the ACC.
Right. There's Georgia Tech, and who else?
Virginia and Louisville.
And who else? And Miami.
Right. Well, I going there, yeah. And
you wouldn't
in the
know
top
it.
10.
Wouldn't know it. Virginia struggled against North Carolina. They did not cover, but they did win that game against North Carolina, and they just keep finding a way to keep winning.
Yeah, I think that they have been dancing with the devil, and whatever song they played for Robert Johnson at the Crossroads is probably going to come to an end, whether it's in the magic of a West Coast trip to Cal this coming weekend or the Fighting Manny Diaz's. But so far, nothing has tripped them up.
Yeah, absolutely nothing has tripped them up yet. I think they're almost that Cinderella team, like Ohio State was in 2002, 2003, where you just keep finding ways to win,
Hey, Mo, I got two things for you. One will make you happy, and then one will probably piss people off, and I don't mean to. Here's a nightmare scenario for your favorite school in Indiana. Right now, Miami doesn't control their own destiny, right? Because of not playing school. So if Virginia were to continue to go undefeated, run the table, and Georgia Tech were, they would go to the ACC championship game.
Correct.
Georgia Tech potentially with no losses if they beat Georgia, or only one loss to Georgia. if Miami runs the table and doesn't make the ACC championship game, based off of just everything else, they will probably still be in that 6 to 9 slot on the college football playoff committee rankings. What if Georgia goes in with either just 1 loss or 0 losses to the ACC championship game and loses to 1 loss Virginia, and then you have 1 loss Miami, 1 loss Georgia Tech, just in the ACC championship game, ACC champion Virginia? I think Notre Dame's going to be screwed.
It could be. I have a hard time believing they're going to let 3 ACC teams in, and I'm going to tell you why.
They're not going to push Miami if they've only lost once to another ranked team, and they've been 6, 7, 8, or 9 for the entire playoff rankings period, which begins next Tuesday.
Okay, but they did push a Florida State team with no losses.
That was when there was only 4 slots, though.
Well, I'm just saying, strange things have happened. I don't see them giving the ACC 3 spots. Even in that scenario, I don't know.
It's interesting to think
maybe
about because
maybe it's a down year.
Theory.
It's a down year for top-heavy conferences like the Big Ten. So the Big Ten may only get 3 in. ACC gets 3. The SEC would probably get 4 or 5 in.
Right.
Then you got your G6 automatic qualifier. Yeah, you're right. Notre Dame would probably get left out. Probably.
They would probably be the one, I think. And then, we're all exhausted. Not all. I know some SEC fans won't be, but a lot of us are exhausted, not about SEC being good and having a lot of teams that are worthy, because I believe that's true, but I am tired of the propaganda machine behind it. I'm also getting a little bit like, hey, Big 12, stop saying about how you're getting disrespected all the time, because that becomes a little bit much too. You guys also need to, like the ACC, win the big out-of-conference games to help that, or win some games in the playoffs like Arizona State did. And, people know that you're getting screwed by ESPN, right? They do. But, you want to remind people, but not pound people over the head with it all the time, personally. That's just my opinion.
100% agree. I think the Big 12 is getting screwed over. I think the ACC is getting screwed over. And I think part of it, at least the Big 12, we can agree the TNT execution was a little cringy of how they did it, but at least you've got Fox, ESPN, and TNT where you can get some more play, whereas with the ACC, man, you're kind of stuck with ESPN and ABC.
You're stuck getting the leftovers. And I think the difference is you don't hear a lot of the ACC teams saying we're getting screwed as much, because many of the bigger brands are, one, getting TV slots, right? Miami's getting their slots right now because they're winning. And 2, they don't care about the ACC. They just want to be out of the godforsaken conference. So They're not out there like waving the flag for the ACC because they want the ACC to die a death or at least be moved out fast. Whereas a lot of the Big 12, maybe Utah aside, is more trying to support the conference generally, even if they might have a desire to go elsewhere. They're not suing the Big 12 over it like
right.
A couple
and we
schools
talked
did.
about it Friday. I mean, Kansas would take a Big 10 invite in a heartbeat, but they're not out there actively driving their own conference into the ground. The conference that they're in right now into the ground in order to get there.
Correct.
But yeah, I think, listen, Big 12 is getting disrespected. BYU should be ranked higher. 100% agree. Texas Tech, they stumbled, but I mean, again, they stumbled with a backup quarterback.
You're right.
You do have to give them some leniency there. Kansas, on the other hand, boy, me and Kansas fans need to have a talk here, because I had a 5-game parlay, and that sucker was solid. And I picked the Kansas Jayhawks, and boy, oh boy, it was 21-7. And I don't know what happened, guys. I was told Kansas State was bad. The games I watched with Kansas State were bad. Kansas State did not play well. Lance Leipold, we've talked about him for the Wisconsin job. He apparently has a Kansas State problem. He can't seem to get past the Power Cats.
Yeah, everybody has their their kryptonite. But I would say one thing. You talked about Texas Tech losing with their quarterback out. Right now is the time for Brett Yormark. I say Jim Phillips, but whatever. To just be having a regular cadence of media appearances, to do some of that advocating of like, Texas Tech has a great season. It's terrible that they lost their quarterback, but that's what football is. Just as another people to remind everyone, as opposed to just coming from the team or fan base. Beat that national platform going right now, because you have this whole other ecosystem that's already framing narratives and shifting the goalposts anyway. Plus, games are just getting a lot more eyeballs. I mean, whatever you want to say about it, like the numbers are the numbers. Some of it's self-fulfilling prophecy based off of time slot and network, but it's still the numbers are the numbers.
Ryan Willie says, and stop the Big Ten hate. That's never going to stop, Ryan. Unfortunately, if you're at the top of the mountain, everybody at the bottom of the mountain is going to keep shouting up at you. And it's true for the SEC, too. The SEC gets some undeserved hate. I'm not saying the SEC doesn't get deserved hate, because they certainly do.
Right.
But that's because of their media partner, ESPN, and not so much, their media partner and some of their fan bases, which are a little extreme, to say the least. But
yeah, it's okay. You can always punch up. It's punching down that people don't really like that much.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
ACC punching down on whoever, this G5 school shouldn't have gotten that 12th spot. That's a bad look. You can't complain when you have more than 50% of the voting right on the future of college football that people are taking shots at you.
And here's the thing. I think a lot of people now, especially after this Indiana game this past weekend, boy, oh boy, do I look smart picking UCLA on the money line. Hey, the over did come in, and I think Indiana probably cleared the over all by themselves on that game.
I think they were right on the edge, if not completely did it themselves, yes.
I think it was 42-7 at the half. It was ungodly lopsided. And we've heard all offseason about Big Ten. Indiana didn't deserve to be in there. Indiana got beat by Notre Dame. Indiana's for real, guys. Kurt Signetti is for real. They deserve to be number 2. There's some arguments
to be number 1.
They could be number 1. Maybe they should be number 1.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say there is I never was against Indiana being in last year, but last year is last year.
Yeah.
Right? That's not the same team. It's not the same quarterback. So their body of work. Look, last year, a lot of the hate that they got was not based off of anything that they did. Right? They just had the luck of the draw on a conference schedule that just that year turned out something that was done, multiple years, a year or two in advance. Didn't give them the best lineup. This year, they've had more prove-it games that they were able to do. And when they had those opportunities, they just completely have dominated, right? And they also are one of the rare teams that doesn't play with their food either. When it's a game they should crush, they crush.
They do. They do. And if it does come down to Ohio State, Indiana, and the Big Ten championship game, I think that is going to be the over-under on that's going to be at least 72 points. Because it's
Oregon
nuts.
might be happy as people not to make it.
But, I mean, the Big Ten has 3 legitimate teams. Oregon is obviously a legitimate team. They've got some shit they got to figure out. Penn State is just, that's over with. That's done for the year. We talked about College Game Day coming to Utah for Utah-Cincinnati. You know that College Game Day wanted to come to Columbus for Ohio State, Penn State. That's probably what their preference would be, but Penn State's absolute collapse ruined that plan for them.
Yeah, they definitely probably had we are probably going to be here if everything works out, and then maybe these are contingents. I'm pretty sure that not definite, but that SMU had a chance of getting game day had they not lost this past weekend, because they've been trying to knock off schools that have never had it, and if SMU had won their game, they likely would have creeped into the bottom of the top 25 as a 6-2 ACC team that has never hosted game day with a number 9 or 10 team coming in, and they could have done a Dallas thing.
Right.
But the minute that they lost, there was no chance. I think it's great that Utah's getting it. Maybe not the, it might have been better for the Holy War, but you know what? Cincy deserves some, secondary shine too coming to that game.
Absolutely. Cincinnati's been playing exceptionally well. And I didn't say that to deride or drive down the Big 12. I'm just putting it out there. If ESPN had the choice, I think ESPN would have preferred a top 10 ranked Ohio State versus a top 25 ranked Penn State over a Big 12 matchup.
The one thing I don't know, and I don't know if we ever know or if it's been in any contract or even rumored. I just wonder whether in these contracts, whether ESPN has to make best efforts or owes the Big 12 one college game day minimum appearance per year. I don't know if that's a thing at all. I wonder if that is, but I think they probably next week's slate has it isn't the most top 25 versus top 25. At least it wasn't before the rankings came out today. Maybe there's more games that have surfaced that I haven't looked at. But on paper last week, there was only one game heading into Saturday that would have been top 25 versus top 25, and that was going to be at Tennessee, where they've already been before. So it was pretty much going to be a pretty wide open choice with Penn State having fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, let me take a look at the picks for next week, because I don't think BYU plays Tech next week. I think it's the following week. So they may be their back-to-back, but we'll see. We got Vanderbilt at Texas.
Right, they've already been to Austin.
Penn State at Ohio State. They've already been to Ohio State with the Texas game earlier. Cincy at Utah. Texas Tech is playing Kansas State. That could be interesting. Virginia's at Cal. That could be interesting. Miami at SMU. You've already brought that one up. Louisville at Virginia Tech. Georgia at Florida.
That will be in Jacksonville, right?
That's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Yes. Kind of surprised that they didn't do it from there.
I correct myself. I confused because Texas with Ohio State. They have not been to Austin yet this year, but obviously they just were in Nashville with Vanderbilt, who would be in Austin.
Yeah, but obviously, I mean, if you guys didn't catch the end of that, the last 10 minutes of that Texas Mississippi State game, you understand why they haven't been in Texas.
For sure.
And then you got South Carolina at Ole Miss. That could have been a really interesting game if South Carolina had held on. And then you've got Oklahoma at Tennessee. Those will be our picks for this week. Just not a lot of I think we've been spoiled. Let me say it that way. We've been spoiled early in the season with some really great slates of games out there.
But the weeks that everyone said we're going to be down have had chaos happen.
And this was supposed to be a huge week. Again, Ohio State, Penn State was supposed to be to determine who the national champion was going to be, by the way some people described it. Kalani L. Utah wants out of the Big 12, as does Arizona State and Kansas, maybe Texas Tech. Yeah, there's schools that want out of the Big 12. But there's a difference about wanting out of the Big 12 and just being extremely vocal about it.
Yeah, they're being more judicious, other than maybe the Utah fan base, right? Or even I think the Utah administration here or there, spotty, but it's not at all like Florida State and Clemson suing, and the conversations that even the UNC athletic director has had out there, or the clear investment dollar amounts that keep getting named. This the most recent one being Virginia, who all seem like they're publicly jockeying with, like, look how much money we're bringing in, look what's going on here, to make sure that the Big Ten and the SEC know that they're following through on whatever they think they need to make themselves look like, the next contestant on The Price is Right.
And we've still got to figure out what's going on with Big Ten Enterprises. So,
yeah.
Y'all talk about Brent Venables yet? We didn't talk about Brent Venables. Do you think this loss is enough to push Venables over the edge? I was kind of thinking.
I don't think that loss is. However, let's let's look at their schedule. I think that loss is perhaps hey, check out this rock on the side of this hill. Do you think if we get one more person to lean on it, we can do it? Because here is their schedule after this. They are heading to Tennessee, and that obviously has its own interesting thing with Josh Heupel, right? Tennessee can load up the points. Oklahoma's defense is supposed to be the strong suit. Then they head to Alabama. Then they play Missouri, which is admittedly potentially a different game now without their starting quarterback. Yeah. And then they end with LSU at home. But, so I don't know that the Ole Miss loss is it, but is the Ole Miss plus a Tennessee plus an Alabama loss? I think, I might get some ice boxes around if I was Brent Venables, because if you don't pull off these next two, I think your seat's going to get hot. They went all in. They got new coordinators. They got Mateer to do their all in, kind of not too dissimilar than we heard that, Clemson was going to do and LSU was going to do. Two of those guys have bank accounts. I mean, one of those guys has a big bank account under school, Dabo. The others, not so much. So I don't think that one game in and of itself is there, but I think, they're either getting some fuel for the fire to get that hot seat going, and Brent might want to see if Amazon delivers dry ice to cool it off a little bit.
I think Venables is safe for this year.
I do not think he is safe for this year.
I think even if he loses all those games, I think the John Mateer revival, I think it shows some kind of improvement. Defensively, they are pretty good defensively. I mean, obviously, Ole Miss scored some points on them, but I
don't know. It's in the air right now, man. It's like birds mating. Everybody wants a new coach. If they go and lose two more games in succession to Ole Miss, and they have 4 losses that would be the 4th loss, right? If I'm not mistaken, on the season, right? They had 1 going in. They're down. There are 2 losses, so they get 2 more losses. Great. If they get 2 more losses and somehow lose to Missouri or LSU, he's definitely gone.
Easy Moan, watch what you say. The FBI is watching. Listen, I gamble legally on FanDuel. I don't do anything illegal, except lose money, which should be illegal because I hated it. Craig Flugar says I'm a loser. Greg, I picked UCLA to beat Indiana straight up. I won no money on college football this weekend. My only saving grace was I had a 3-way same game parlay. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Chase Brown all score touchdowns. And I was smart enough at halftime when they said, we'll give you $125 to go away. I said, give me the $125, and at least I'm above water, or at least near the water line. And I took that money. So
if it makes you feel better, I'm a loser because I also picked Minnesota with the point spread. Because, how is Minnesota might lose this game, but how are they going to lose by that much? Because Iowa has no offense. And then I looked. I have 4 games on the split box. I have 2 on the computer monitor and 1 on a laptop, right, when there's a lot going on. I didn't even put Minnesota on because I figured it's not going to be that interesting a game. And I look up, and it's, 31-0 or 30-0 in the second quarter. How does anybody give up 30 points to Iowa in a game, let alone in 22 minutes? I don't know, man. That surprised me. I just didn't think that Iowa was capable of scoring that much against anybody in a half.
I don't know what you put on the line, Greg, but I'm hoping it's this.
We want a cheeseburger? Come on, everybody got a cheeseburger. One cheeseburger? Come on, cheeseburger. I don't want a cheeseburger. It's too early for a cheeseburger. Too early for a cheeseburger? Look. Cheeseburger, 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 cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger and Pepsi. UCLA over Illinois straight up. Come on, man. No, I had UCLA over Indiana straight up. Over Indiana. And it was like 42-7 at halftime.
I mean,
and I think it was halftime. It was great. It was like, I typed in the group chat. I'm like, I don't think UCLA is going to win this game, guys. Your Bengals lost to the Jets. Well, Zach Taylor, man, what are you going to do? But you know what? I'm not going to blame Zach Taylor. I'm going to blame Mike Brown because it's Mike Brown's fault. He got rid of Lou Anarumo, who, I don't know, he went to Indianapolis and has done a fantastic job with the Colts defense. It's almost like not paying defensive players costs you money. And I don't blame Logan Wilson for wanting to be traded, and I wouldn't blame Joe Burrow if Joe Burrow wanted to be traded. It's a joke. That whole franchise is a joke. I love them. Always be a Bengals fan because my grandpa was a Bengals fan, but you know, because I'm a loser. Hey, I'll tell you what, Greg. If you didn't make a bet on it, come out and sing Beck's "I'm a Loser." I just want to hear you try and. I just want to see you try and sing the lyrics to that, where it's
The
like
rap part.
a termite choking on a splinter that's hanging on some earwax or whatever it was. I mean Indiana, damn it. Well, hey, guess what, Glenn? I also had a parlay where I had Oregon and 32.5 points over Wisconsin, who gave up 37 to Iowa.
And they were the fifth of my fifth, and they were the only ones who couldn't do it.
Yeah. That's so. I mean, I did really, really bad, really, really bad. But the one thing I will say about FanDuel, I like their app. Their app is always ahead of my TV, even the broadcast TV. I would love to hear Greg sing some Beck. There you go. John Dry says, "Hey y'all, good to see you, John." Let's see. Any more comments here? We talked about Venables. Who else did we have coming up here? I don't know. Is there anything else for the weekend you want to talk about real quick?
I mean, the refereeing still sucks, but that's not really
true.
That's not really going to change. We should just have a bot to just insert team X got screwed by ref Y in game Z.
Again, it's one of these things where, and I actually read a comment, I think it was on Reddit this week or somewhere, where somebody had put out there that college refs had come down to teach them how to be high school refs. And they said, if you see a guy on the ground, just make sure you call it as defensive pass interference because you don't want to miss a blatant call.
The thing I think would be good for the conferences to get with is with their network partners, and if necessary on their own separately, right, is you definitely have the scenarios, and I'm trying to remember the play. It was whenever ACC game was, there was two games on the CW. I think one was a Big 12 game, not a Pac-2 game. It was like a Washington State or Oregon State game. But in whatever game they had earlier, they clearly didn't have the same amount of camera angles, right? And not all of these games have the same amount of camera angles. I don't mean national championship and Super Bowl level with 97 cameras, but this should almost be a floor so that you know you're going to get this basic coverage. And if you can't get that from your network partners, the cameras are cheap, right? There's literally no excuse now for the pylons to not have two cameras going in either direction across the goal line on both sides, whether the network provides them or not. Especially if the replay is going there, so you get your network feeds and you get your own. If like we could all ring it for less than $1,000, maybe not as high def as a 4K or 8K camera would, that would help a lot. If there was just at least some degree of uniformity of knowing that you'll have these stationary angles on key plays in addition to whatever the networks provide, whether they have like a 5 camera setup or a 10 camera setup.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just anymore. It's what constitutes a catch, what constitutes targeting, what constitutes being forced into a ball to create a fumble. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Forget about what targeting is, because I don't really know what that is either.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is either. Thanks, guys. I love Brent Venables, the real life person, a lot. We need some production, though, after 4 years. Never replaced Levy adequately. Do head coaches still hire and fire, or is that the GM AD types? Well, mostly for assistant coaches, it's the head coach.
Yes. Usually when it gets to that next step, your seat is hot, right?
Yes.
I.e. Gundy last year, i.e. Mike Norvell, who generously donated money from his salary right, and replace both coordinators. I'm sure the Gundy one is clear that he was told to do that in some form. Maybe he went to an extreme. Norvell was probably gently prodded, maybe on the coaching front. Maybe he knew what he had to do. But if you're GM, for the most part, not the GMs. There's probably a few GMs that have that kind of power over a head coach. Andrew Luck probably would, as an example, in Stanford. But most of the others do not have that level of power. But the AD and the board and boosters can certainly influence that you should make some changes or we're going to make a different change. And then I know there have been a few coaches that didn't want to do that and they were out of a job.
Yeah, I mean, when it gets to the point you're getting told that you have to fire and hire OCs and DCs, you do have a very hot seat. But who do you bring in?
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Pete Nakos, 2 minutes ago, a team meeting has been called at LSU for 8 p.m. Central, sources tell On3 Sports.
Okay, interesting, because Ryan Willie says Fickle has not been told that he'll be back next season. Well, I would certainly hope so. I hope that's the case, Ryan, because you cannot score 7 points in the last four games and get to keep your job, especially at a storied place like Wisconsin.
ESPN is separately reporting it. So Pete Thamel's tweet 29 seconds ago, or a little bit longer, LSU just called a team meeting for tonight per ESPN sources. The Nakos one is saying sources telling On3 Sports. So On3 sometimes will repost other people's things. On3 is citing On3 sources. ESPN is saying ESPN sources, so they're not cross-posting each other. So 6 p.m. Central Time.
Well, I thought it said 8 p.m. Central
8 p.m.
Time.
Sorry, 8 p.m. Central Time. 6 p.m.
So it's an hour.
In an hour from now.
Yeah, listen, they're not having a team meeting to reiterate that Brian Kelly's the coach.
Unless he's literally like gutting the assistants and he caved. But my guess is if they're telling, I mean, look, the sources for a team meeting, there's at least 105 plus of them, right? Who could be the source? Any player who knows there's a meeting and anyone they know that they know. I think if you were betting, you'd be betting that Brian Kelly is going to be taking accent classes soon.
Fleck respects Minneapolis' Somali American community by putting forth zero effort for Floyd. If people don't get that, Floyd of Rosedale is a gigantic pig statue that they play for. And I guess Somali Americans don't like pork. I guess you could say he's doing it for the Jewish American community as well. Also doing it for me because I don't like pork and I can't eat pork. I can't eat any red meat. So, worst Oklahoma State football team in the modern era. Don't disagree with that. Thank you for the super chat, Jacobra Cat. That is something that is completely different.
And now for something completely different.
Thank you for that, sir.
Moan, who do you think?
Sounds like someone's getting fired.
Sounds like someone's getting fired, and it's not me or Moen. We do this for free.
That's right. Yeah, this is an independent contractor deal.
Does Lane Kiffin like gumbo? Is he instantly number one on LSU's list?
Jimmy
I'm
Sexton
curious.
is just like, Jimmy Sexton's out there buying a bigger wallet right now.
I mean, I love if Brian Kelly leaves, I love the fact as a bitter rival that the what is it? What's the Liam Neeson movie? The first one? The price
Taken?
just went up. Taken. The price I abhor you're firing my coaches, so the price just went up. You're lying to me, so the price just went up. Another $1 million for Lane Kiffin to go to Florida, to stay at Ole Miss, to leverage LSU, to go to LSU. Be careful, somebody out there is going to get Norvelled. They're going to worry that their school is losing a coach to a school like Alabama. They're going to give him a contract, and in 3 years, they're going to have hostage video press conferences. Did you see that press conference this week, by the way?
Literally could not happen. What's that? Have I seen what?
Did you see the Mike Norvell press conference this week, midweek on their bye week? I felt bad for him.
I didn't, but from what I've heard from Florida State message boards, it reminded me of the movie Friday. How you gonna get fired on your day off?
It was pretty bad. It was awkward. It was like and I got no answers and but he was a nice guy and it was rough, man. And it was rough, and I'm being probably the nice version.
Jacoba Cat with the $2 super chat. Literally could not happen without Senor Greg El Frio. What does Frio mean?
Cold?
Oh,
Greg the Cooler?
Okay. Greg the Cooler. I respect it. I only took 3 years of high school Spanish, guys.
You thought there was a typo, Greg Alfredo?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was Greg the Frito Bandito, Bill G. Gundy was being fired last year unless various changes were made, including the coaching staff. They probably should have. Bill, I think I mentioned this earlier in the show, but I will say it again. If you're going to have somebody replace an entire coaching staff, you might as well just fire the head coach too. I don't think I've ever seen it be successfully done.
All right.
Where you fire the OC, the DC, special teams.
So put this.
We got another rumor coming hot off the rumor mill.
Yeah, this is put under speculation because I can't say if it's just people being obvious reading tea leaves, but one of the X accounts I follow is CFB Talk Daily, which has about 47,000 followers. So I don't believe it's more troll, but I can't. There's no sources that players were sent home earlier and now being called back to the facility at 8 p.m. I think that part's true. But he's saying Brian Kelly has been fired, but I don't know if that's just reading the obvious or stating it as he knows it. But since it's all coming in fast and furious right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wonder what.
Okay, hold on.
You
this is like crazy shit.
Would jump on that if I was
Pete Thamel, 9 seconds ago. Sources: LSU coach Brian Kelly was informed of the intention to dismiss him earlier today. The school is expected to inform the team of this development tonight. Talks about the terms of his departure are expected to continue. So Pete Thamel is saying he's gone. The terms exactly of the negotiated exit are continuing, but they are going to inform the team of this development tonight. Again, LSU coach per Pete Thamel, Brian Kelly, was informed of the intention to dismiss him earlier today. The school is expected to inform the team of this development tonight.
Well, you know what Brian Kelly's saying right now. Thank you for the super chat, by the way, Bill G. I think we can all agree this is what Kelly's saying right now.
Tell them to bring me my money.
Getting paid $53 million. That's what his buyout was $53 million. I don't know if that's ultimately what it ends up being. Like Rock said, it could be negotiated down to $40 million, but hell, $40 million. I mean, we're just really flipping burgers at that point. Huge news. Huge.
Massive.
Yeah.
Daniel brings up. We secondhand broke it.
That's true. $53 million, but in installments. Right. Because that makes a difference.
Well, he has some offset as well. So if he gets another job, it's never going to cost him $53 million. And Brian Kelly, if he wants to, if he's anywhere like James Franklin, he will want another job. And he will get another job if he chooses to get one. Yeah. I don't know what's at the top of his market. I think because Brian Kelly's got this reputational issue, right? James Franklin has a reputation about not winning games, but like other than that, there's not like a lot of out there about people not liking him. There are people there are detractors. There are some things that happened in the past at Vanderbilt and what have you. Brian Kelly is there's not a lot of national media going to bat for Brian Kelly. I won't go to bat for Brian Kelly. There's a lot of like dunking season on that fake dance thing and the fake accent thing, and thinking that leaving Notre Dame to try to go win a national title, and then Notre Dame gets to the national championship game before you. But that aside, if he wants a job, he will get one, whether he's in line for the biggest jobs or has to take an ego cut somewhere. Who knows?
Great point. Brian Kelly has coached in a national championship game. We can't forget that. He was not well liked at Notre Dame after he left, though. I felt there were a lot of defenders before he left, but the way he left is what I think really hurt his reputation at Notre Dame.
Oh, completely agree. Because if I'm not mistaken, when he left, wasn't Notre Dame just finished being ranked like number 5 or number 6 that year? And the whole thing was about what I guess he perceived that he couldn't hit that ceiling again of a national title. That's why the shots came when Marcus Freeman got them there, because he got them there faster than he did at supposedly a place with a higher ceiling.
Yes, and it was basically because it was Notre Dame, he could not get the player because Notre Dame had higher standards. He could not get the players he needed to get over that hill, et cetera, et cetera. You're right. Marcus Freeman takes him there, comes damn close to winning a national championship last year, but he didn't.
Right.
All right. Before we get to our last calls, let's go ahead and set this up. So Brian Kelly's out at LSU, guys. According to sources at ESPN, Brian Kelly is out at LSU. Who are you putting in there, Rock?
Man. Not James Franklin. Look, I mean, I think you're going to do the same. You have to make the calls, right? You're going to call. If they don't, they're going to get yelled at, but they're going to call Nick Saban. He's going to say no. Right? He's not going to do a sequel. They're going to call Marcus because that's just what you do, right? I think you're going to call Lane Kiffin to see whether he likes the idea of being in Louisiana just as much as he might want to be in Gainesville, and he still might stay in Ole Miss, but I think you're going to call there. But, man, after that, I don't know that somebody like Eli is going to excite the LSU fan base. They're going to go big. Maybe they're going to go someone, in a much different vein. I don't know who the obvious ones. If anyone, the LSU fans are there. Besides, they're going to go through those lists. But who's the most ready to take that leap that will actually leave their school? The other ones that keep getting mentioned are guys like Dillingham and Key and Brom, right? That next tier. But I don't know if those guys are ready to leave their schools, because people said they probably weren't ready to leave to go to Florida, which is, a close peer level to LSU. I mean, what do you think?
I think Brom, you're not getting Brom away from Louisville. That's his alma mater. That's like Mario and Miami. You're not getting them away from it because
it's not happening.
It's their alma mater. They're not leaving. I would put Stein out there from Oregon, but Oregon's offense seems to have regressed this year, and I don't know if that's just
go for an OC though. That's the thing.
Well, that's the thing, but they need an offense at LSU. They need points in bunches. So I thought Willie Stein might have been good. I'll put this out here. This Lincoln Riley, man. If you want an offensive guy, Lincoln Riley can still coach offense. Now, defensively, he's terrible. He still has not got the defense part figured out.
I can't imagine LSU being, let's get the guy that had one of the other more marquee programs in America and did nothing with it.
Well, you can't say he did nothing with it. He did have Heisman winners there.
Right, but they want Heisman winners as a byproduct of winning a national title, like Burrow, kind of thing. They'd rather have Joe Burrow kind of scenarios, not look at these individual awards.
Okay, what about Coach O? Why not?
Well, I know he'd love to go back to school.
He'd love to pep up that gumbo boy.
Man, right.
Does Wisconsin have more pressure to fire Fickle? Absolutely, especially if Norvell gets fired too.
But Wisconsin,
I think it's pretty.
Ryan, don't you have to fire your athletic director too, who might even be more cringe than your coach?
You
That
know, I'm going
statement
to
was
put another
brutal.
name out there that I hate to put out there, but I got to put it out there, and that's Brian Hartline.
I just don't see, personally, I don't see LSU, I don't see Florida not getting somebody who has been a P4 head coach or higher. I just don't see them
Okay,
doing
but
what
how
they
many
did.
quality, that level of quality of coaches are there available?
No, listen, I don't think that's necessarily the right thing to do. I mean, you already hear the Florida fans, as an example, dismissing Golish at USF, especially after losing to Memphis, but even before then, because they don't want to go down the G5 route after the last kind of moves. I even hear Florida State fans say the same thing, but they're a little bit more resigned to what might happen from a budgetary perspective. And I think LSU kind of falls into that Ohio State category where their administration, because they're about to hear that unless Texas comes on, and even if Texas comes open, you have the premier job that is likely to be open this coaching cycle in a lot of people's minds. Some will disagree. I'm not trying to say that I think that's it, but it's likely to be the one, right? Even more so than Florida because there's more recent success. And you've won a national title with 3 different coaches more recently, and Florida's won national titles, with other coaches as well. So I'm not dismissing Florida's job. They're not going to get away with swinging and missing and going after the biggest names. I mean, Lanning makes sense for them to take a shot. Whether they'll do that and draw him back to the South as a South guy, I don't know whether LSU's enough for him to move.
So we've got Lanning, we've got Jed Fish out there. They would be leaving Big Ten programs to go to the SEC. But we could potentially, let's say Wisconsin does fire. Let's say Wisconsin figures this shit out that he's not going to win there, and they fire Fickle. You got Wisconsin, Penn State, LSU, Florida open. I'm going to put this out there. Sharon Moore. Let's just say Sharon Moore loses to Ryan Day this year, gets put out at Michigan. Now you've got the Michigan job open as well. How many A4 coaches can you? I mean, listen, Urban Meyer and Nick Saban, man, they're not coming back.
Right. I don't think that they are. I just mean you're going to do the obligatory call if you're LSU to Saban, right? Even if just to pick his brain on who he would hire. If he'll do that for you as a now more associated with Alabama kind of guy.
Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. I'll give you a little flugs going, oh. Maybe Wisconsin has a chance at that axe after all. MBM is back. Good to see MBM. Love College Football Mafia. My pokes suck. That means I get to be a judgmental prick.
That's the best place to be. There's less stress with it. You're never wrong, and even if you are, it doesn't matter.
I get to be a judgmental. Here you go.
I am feeling the effects of masculinity right now. I feel the testosterone. I want to go to war. I want a lightsaber. I'm a man.
Thank you for the super chat, MBM, you judgmental prick. So Flugs will be going live here shortly, I do believe. That's good because I'm going to have to get off of here. I got to get up early in the morning for some stuff, but we're going to do our last call. Thank you for the super chat again, MBM. Thank you to everybody who gave super chats. Before I do our last call here, I will give it for everything here. Ryan Willie, thank you for the $100 super chat. Much appreciated, sir. Earl Carr with the 5-piece, 10-piece. Greg Flugar with the 2-piece. Jacobra Cat with a 5 and a 2. Bill G with the $10 holla. And then we've got Ryan Willie with another one. And then we've got MBM with his final one, $100 super chat. Thank you guys so much who donated super chats tonight. Those help us out so much, especially towards the end of the month here when the bills start piling up. I can't thank everybody who donated enough, and thank you to everybody who showed up and interacted with us, because that's part of what this show is. It's interacting with each other to get some cool stuff to happen. And now we're going to do our last call for the evening. Rock and Ramp from CFB Express. Make sure you're following them on YouTube. CFB, the letter X, PRESS. Rock, what is your last call for this evening?
Well, appreciate the shout out. Definitely do. I mean, I'm going to go check to see if Greg's on. If he's on, like, who knows? Maybe there'll be a late night post Greg, because if the breaking news is true as we expect, I'd like to thank all the insane fan bases, and even better, the insane administrators of these programs for giving a season's worth of off-season content in the actual season with these coaching carousel changes. It's gold for the conversation. And I'd also like to remind everybody that there is still theoretically over 40 teams with a 2% chance or greater of statistically apparently making the college football playoff. And for everybody who said that this is going to diminish the regular season for certain games, I think that's probably true. But we are going into week 9, and there are 40 teams that still have a dream. And I think that's pretty damn awesome. No matter how crazy or stupid the sport gets at times, it's still the greatest damn sport in the world.
Absolutely. You got to love the chaos of in-season college football. It's got to the point where it's even crazier than out-of-season college football. For my last call, I just want to say, again, thoughts and prayers up to Nick Mangold's family. I think Nick Mangold obviously deserves to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'd like to see Ohio State do something with his number as well and get him on the Ring of Honor at Ohio Stadium. So
yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. Love you, Nick. God bless your family. We will catch you guys on Tuesday for the Bombers Blitz. Until then, myself and Rock, we will see you next Sunday, sir.
Good night, guys.